and welcome to the Happier Marriage Podcast, a podcast for spouses longing to have a happier marriage so they can feel more connected, desired, and supported. Now, to start the show, here is your host and Sherpa, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified relationship coach, Kingsley Grant.
Thanks for joining me on the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast. This is episode 39, and in this episode, I'll be sharing with you how to support your spouse in tough times. That's the topic that's before us today, and that is how to support your spouse in tough times. We all face challenges in life, right? And when our partner is going through a tough time, it can be difficult, to say the least, to know how to best support them. Again, it may be because we just don't know where to start. They may not have communicated with us. We may have had some conflict. There may be a number of reasons why this is more challenging at times for us than at other times. So how do we do that? How do we find a way to support that spouse? Because when he or she is going through a tough time, I guarantee they're looking for that support. They may not say it. They may not, just verbalize to you that they would love your support, but somewhere there, hoping for, looking for, desiring that support from you. So it can be difficult to know how to best support them. So in this episode, we'll discuss practical ways to be there for your spouse during those difficult moments. And by the end of this podcast, you'll have a better understanding of how to provide the support your spouse needs. Because every spouse is going to need something differently. And so I want to be able to present this episode in a way where you are going to be able to come away with knowing what your spouse needs and how to navigate with him or her those life challenges so that you both can emerge stronger on the other side. I've always said to my couples, I'm on the side of the relationship. We want the relationship to win. We want to come out on the other side where the relationship stands stronger. And this is one of those ways for us to get to that goal is when we are able to find the best way or the most appropriate way to support our spouse during difficult times. Now, this episode is the third in the installment in a series on managing expectations and setbacks. So if you missed the previous two episodes, you may want to go back and listen to those because this is the third in the series on managing expectations and setbacks. Now, to make sure you don't miss any of the episodes in this series, and at any point at all, subscribe to the show today. Click on the subscribe button on the platform in which you listen to this this podcast, so you can be notified whenever a new episode comes up. And if you've missed any of the past episodes, let me strongly encourage you, whether it's in this series or in past series, to go to happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com, and you can click on the podcast menu and you'll be brought to all the episodes I've done so far, covered a number of different topics that I believe will be helpful to you. Now, if you're listening for the first time, let me say this. You may not agree with all that you've heard or will hear, and quite frankly, I don't expect you to, simply because you are smart enough to figure things out on your own. But something I may bring is something you may never have thought about, and it may be new information, and it may trigger you, or it may go against the grain of what you've heard so often and gotten so used to. But one of the goals of this podcast is to stir things up, is to sometimes for me to be a contrarian, to come at you or come with something that you may need to hear for the first time and challenge your standing way of thinking on certain things. Because sometimes our belief systems are in place and it does impact us and hold us back from the best experiences we can have in our own personal lives and in our relationships. So at any point, if you don't, if it triggers you or whether or not it triggers you, maybe you resonate with something, please make sure I hear from you. So on any of the social media platforms, you may say this, podcast episode, please comment there. Or you can also send an email to us, and you will hear the announcer at the end who will tell you how to connect with us even more so if you want to personalize things. Now, this show is brought to you by KingsleyGrant.com, and our hope is that you will be challenged, inspired, and encouraged in this episode as it is in every other episode. Stay tuned.
So, the big question is this. How is it possible that you have a happier marriage when you feel like you've tried everything? Your spouse isn't making an effort. You're exhausted. You feel like giving up. Or there's so much hurt that's taken place between you and your spouse. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of Happier Marriage World? I hope you're ready for another round of the Happier Marriage podcast. Like mentioned before, today we're tackling this topic, how to support your spouse in tough times. And just to remind you that you can also watch video podcasts or video episodes of topics like this one and other topics as well on my YouTube channel at Kingsley Grant. So you can go there and again, subscribe. Please do so I can get the numbers up, but also you'll be able to be notified of any new video that I have done on different topics that I also post on my YouTube channel. And when you go there, make sure you smash the subscribe button, click on the like button if you like what you're hearing, and the notification bell so you won't miss out on any future broadcasts, right? You can also have shorter versions of what I do, can consume in 60 seconds or less or thereabouts. And you can go to my YouTube shorts. Just hit the shorts button and you'll see my YouTube shorts. And I have a number of things that will be easily consumed by you. And I would think you'd really appreciate that. So let me encourage you to make sure you go there and just gobble everything up. And so I also have some exciting things in the work, which I'll mention more about later, about a deck of cards for couples entitled Connect Strong. And these cards are designed to help you and your partner, your spouse, to, have fun and meaningful conversations that would bring you into a deeper connection. So I'll tell you how to possibly get a pack of those cards. Maybe at the end of this episode. I want to have a limited amount at this point. So I've been thinking about how to go about doing this, but I really haven't figured out how best to go about mentioning this. But I want you to know I have that. And at some point, you'll be able to access and have it available to you. And you can just go ahead and get direct shipping and as you pay for that pack of cards. I tell you, it's something that is not out there. I guarantee I have taken all these years of looking at different encounters of relationships, and I put together, I believe, 53 cards that can help you on your date, anniversary, spending time together, whatever you're doing. And these cards can be very, very helpful. So I won't take time because I have created a video to explain how it works, and you'll hear more about that, whether at the end of this podcast episode or the next one that's coming up. Again, let me simply say thanks for joining me on this episode. And as we've discussed, we're going to tackle now how to support your spouse in tough times. Having counseled and coached hundreds of couples over the past several years as a licensed marriage and family therapist, and also as a certified relationship coach, and for that, what I've learned and experienced in those professional setting, but also in my own personal journey as a husband of more than 3 decades, knocking on the door of 4 decades, I'm able to talk about topics like this one, I believe, with confidence, both from a professional and a personal point of view. So I hope you'll appreciate that, because I'm bringing you this kind of expertise, this kind of experience, personal and otherwise, to kind of let you know I've been there. And I'm not just speaking from theory. I'm not just making things up out of the air and because it sounds good. I am talking to you about things I've experienced myself. Some of them I have, and some I have come across as I work with couples throughout the past several years. Now, this is a very important topic because every one of us, like I mentioned before, in any relationship for any length of time, will go through tough times, right? Financially, physically, emotionally, relationally, and you name it. We will at some point experience that in our lives. And so having tough times in marriage is not unique to you. It's not unique to me. you and I are not the only one who have experienced it. And I want to make sure you'll hear that, because sometimes you'll feel like you're the only one going through that. Nobody is having as tough a time as you, or you're not getting the support from your spouse as you would wish. And so you take on this feel that makes it sound as if, no one else understands. But I want to assure you, my friend, from having listened to so many couples and having gone through my own experiences myself, it's not unique to you. Tough times will come, and you and your spouse will need to know how to navigate that. I can tell you that my wife and I have experienced some tough times in our almost 4 decades of marriage. And one of those tough times for us was when I had an open heart surgery in 2008. And at that time, I could not work for a few months afterwards. So imagine being at one point the main provider for our family, financially and otherwise. And then I had this open heart surgery, and my wife was the only one now who had to carry the weight financially for our family. And we didn't have a whole lot of savings at that time. And we still are working on that. So I want to make sure you understand. It's not like, things are a whole lot better now. Thank God. A whole lot better now. But at the time, it was really a struggling time for us. We were, this is like 2008. So we're talking about 15 years or so ago. And for my recovery, I basically could not do anything. Everything I could not. If to laugh, it hurts. To cough, it hurts. To sit up, it hurts. To sleep, it hurts. I mean, you name it. It was a very tough and challenging time for us. And I needed my wife's support. And part of me in some areas just kind of thought that she should know. She should know what kind of support I needed, right? And I realized that I did not communicate to her some of the things I needed from her. I mean, actually, I was in such a state because I was kind of drugged up and trying to manage my pain and comfort. And you can just imagine what it was like if you've ever gone through any kind of major surgery or physical, health challenges. When you're truly going through a very difficult time, very, very few things are on your mind as far as, being present. And all you can think about is just what you're going through. So I would assume certain things, and that my wife should be able to pick up on. It was almost like read my mind or get the crystal ball out. I don't believe in crystal balls, so I want to make sure you know that. But just as a point of reference, and somehow figure out what I needed. She should know when I needed to be helped to get up out of the chair, to go use a bathroom, or to get some food, or to go to brush my teeth, or whatever the case might be. And so there was assumptions on my part. And sometimes I may not have communicated them, but I felt resentment rising inside of me because I figure she should know, having had major surgery. Now, she's never had a major surgery, right? So she may not understand what it's like to go through that. I have. But, they've said how men are more like wimps. When we're sick, we are wimps. We are like a little crybaby. And sometimes I agree. That it can be that way. And I don't know why, but that's one of those things. And so what happened is I needed her support. I needed her to be there for me in more ways than one. Thank God for the most part, she was there. She had to manage the household. Our kids were a bit younger then, they're older teenagers. So it wasn't like they were, they needed to have their diapers changed or everything taken care of for them. They could help themselves. That was very, very, thank God for that. And also she had to, of course, take care of the household, me, work. And so you can imagine what that was like for her, the stress, the concerns, having to check in on me because I could not sleep in the bed. I slept in a chair that I laid out in, and that's where I slept. So I had to then, but again, I was not reasonable at the time because I wasn't thinking about being reasonable. I'm only thinking about my comfort. I'm thinking about just to be able to get up each day and feel less pain, as you can imagine. So I needed her support. But yeah, again, like I said, she showed her support. And I want to share with you what I believe that in how she did it, but also in how you can do it as well. Because these are these points, these reasons I'm going to give you of how to support your spouse and ways to do that, basically, kind of tie into my story just now, but also in what I've experienced in my work as a professional marriage and family therapist, but also I can, hearing so many different stories. I believe this will summarize for you 5 ways to do that. So the first one I want to mention is be a good listener. Be a good listener. In times when your spouse is going through a very, very tough time, it's very essential that he or she knows that they have your full attention, that you're actually listening to them, not more than just what they're saying. You're listening to their heart. You're listening to what's behind what they're saying. Maybe they're feeling, like me. I felt like, I wasn't contributing to the household as I would like to. And so I felt kind of, some way about that, even though my situation was, I just could not. But it doesn't mean I still didn't think about that. So her listening to my heart, listening to my struggles, listening to my concerns, listening to my fear, listening to just me vent sometimes without having to, try to correct or lecture or any of those things was very important. And so by her listening, it helped me know I had her support. So by listening, one of those ways you can do that is when your partner is sharing with you some things, repeat back. Just kind of summarize what you're hearing to know that you're there. They have your full attention. You're not on your phone. You're not being distracted. You're not talking to them and watching the television at the same time, right? You're there present, so you're able to say to them, let me just make sure I get this right. And again, it's not to fix anything. It's simply say, how can I show acknowledgement? How can I show my partner that I've listened to him or her? And it may just be by you reframing what you've just heard with a tone of empathy, of concern, of care, right? You may need to ask some clarifying questions. Because again, in my situation, I didn't want to do a whole lot of talking. So I would briefly share some things. But if my wife had asked, and she did ask for some clarifying questions to make sure that she fully understood where I was coming from and what my needs were, it told me that she was listening, she cared, and she was concerned about my overall well-being. So being a good listener is one of those important ways to show support to your spouse in a tough time. Secondly, I kind of hinted at this earlier, is being empathetic, right? And again, it's sometimes challenging, especially if you have never been in that situation before. Now, my wife had not had surgery, but she understood what pain and recovering from pain was because she had given birth to 2 children. And so if any person will understand what that's like, if you've ever given birth as a wife, I want to emphasize wife because in our day and conversation in our day, you're hearing all kinds of crazy things out there. But I believe that God established the woman as the one to give birth. And that's why he told the very first 2 persons he created. I know this might be controversial, but I just have to say what I believe. And that is that, that she would bear children. And he said, because of the curse of what happened in the Garden of Eden, God said, because of what happened, Eve, you will give birth to children, but there will be pain in your birthing. So women experience pain in birthing because of the curse. It was not intended to be that way from the very beginning, but because of the curse of what they did in the Garden of Eden, right? They ate the forbidden fruit that God had told them not to eat. And so the curse was she would give birth in pain. So of any person who can understand what pain is a mother, a woman who have given birth to a child and know what that birth pangs is all about. So she understands pain and recovering from pain. So it may not be the same kind, but she could be empathetic. And she was empathetic because, again, she have been there to some degree. So I think one of those ways to show empathy is to lean in and use phrase like, I can't imagine what this must be like for you. How frustrating it is for you wanting to do some things, provide, to work, and you just can't. Or I can imagine how really tough this is for you. So I'm using words that would help my partner to know that I'm trying to lean in the best way I can. However, it's not to say, I understand, because you may not understand. So even though my wife has gone through birth pains of giving birth to our children, I will never understand what that kind of pain is ever. I can never, and a man will never be able to understand what that pain is like, because we cannot give birth to children. Contrary to what you may hear today, but we don't have that, God didn't build us that way. So I can never understand that pain. However, can I understand pain? Yes. She would never be able to understand my surgical pain and recover from that. But can she understand pain? Yes. So she can lean in, which she did, to my pain and show empathy, right? And maybe it's sometimes she would come and I'm in my chair, either laying down or sitting up, and she would come and spend some time and, sit beside me, or, hug me, or just give me a peck on the forehead, or whatever the case might be, is showing that physical signs that, she's there for me. So it's very much supportive by being empathetic. The third way is offering help. Now, I'm a very independent person. I like to do things for myself. I grew up that way. And I believe that I'm the person who is a giver and a provider and a protector. So I have that mentality. And so it's hard. It's a whole lot better now, but I can tell you it was hard for me to ask for help in some areas, because I came up from the school of, if it's ever going to be done well, you got to do it yourself, right? Have you ever heard that before? So I kind of was very independent and didn't want to ask for a lot of help, even when I could be running myself ragged and burning the candles at both ends and paying the price for it, and then be mad at myself and then, say, look at what I have done, and being this martyr, martyr complex. And so I didn't like to, but I realized a need. And over time, I've become better at this, where I'll ask for help. I'll delegate things because I know I can't do it all by myself. For example, this editing of this podcast, I've delegated, and I have a wonderful person who is editing my podcast, because I can do it myself, but by asking for help, this person can do as good a job, if not a better job, and be more focused on that and give me a chance to do other things, which I so appreciate my podcast editor of even these episodes. Going back to my situation then, is if, for example, my wife was to leave the house and say, is there anything you need before I leave? Or my daughter said that to me, or be more, or take the initiative to bring me some water, even though I may not have asked for it, but just to think, okay, maybe he's thirsty. Maybe he needs to have some water. Or, did you take your medication? No, I struggle to get up and to go get my medication if I didn't have it beside me, right? So these offers of help, and then following through, again, is a way to communicate support, because it's like putting themselves in my shoe and offering to help, knowing that I was to some degree helpless in certain areas. And so by her offering her help, or if you offer help to your spouse, it's one way to let him or her know you're very supportive of him or her. Number 4, be patient. This is a very important aspect of it, because again, you find yourself in a new territory, a strange land, right? It's a place where you've never been before. And you may need to process some of the things you are also feeling, because you may hear things being said. Because I know that in my pain and in my drugged state, I may acted or behave in a manner that could be unbecoming. And my wife could have taken it wrongly. Wrongly, taken it wrong. And so may have misinterpreted that, which I didn't mean, but however, I may not have recognized that. So being patient with me is very important. Getting me out of the bed and me struggling. The very first time I tried to lay in bed, I tell you, it was a painful experience. And I said, no, I'm not ready for bed yet. I have to go back to my chair. And so being patient to hold me and let me lay back down, and hold me up and let me lay back down, till I finally find the best way to maneuver to get out of the bed. So being patient in that regards, or with my needs, me getting to the bathroom or asking for certain things and not getting frustrated is very important. Because when you're showing frustration, or being angry with your partner because of what's going on, and your patience is running thin, and I can understand, because again, going back to my situation, my wife is almost doing everything and doing her work, her part and my part. So she could be very frazzled and tired And so to ask for one more thing, to be patient, is not easy, but it's necessary to show your partner that you are going to sacrifice and do some things that you know is very important for them. And so you may want to take care of yourself, deep breathing or other calming techniques, meditation, prayer, going for walks, listening to music, whether it's worship music or just whatever music that may, rock your boat, listening to that. Find a way to self-care, but in the moment with your spouse, show patience. Okay. Now, the fifth way, before I get to the fifth one, in speaking about being patient as one of the ways to show support to your spouse, let me suggest strongly that maybe your marriage is going through a very testing time or challenging time as a result of this tough time for one of your spouse, one of you. And you may be uncertain now of your marriage. Maybe you're feeling as if, I don't know if we're going to survive this. So what if you were able to do a 90-second assessment of where your marriage might be right now and being honest? And suppose you were able to do that in less than 90 seconds. So I've created what I call the Happier Marriage Assessment quiz, the Happier Marriage Assessment quiz, that will provide you with a numeric score and then give you an explanation of what those score means, because those score will tell you what zone your marriage might be in. And I've divided the in 4 zones. So it's a blissful zone, ambiguous zone, gridlock zone, or the peril zone. And so maybe taking the assessment might give you a good way to gauge more factually where your relationship is than emotionally, because you could be emotionally charged and you're feeling some things and your emotions is kind of misguiding and misleading you, because the marriage may not be where it's at, but how you're feeling, you may have that feeling maybe overriding the facts of what is going on. So this quiz is under 90 seconds. You'll get a downloadable PDF that will explain to you your score and what zone your marriage might be in. And whatever zone your marriage is in, I've also provided you with a how to then navigate to whatever stage you might want, or a better zone than you find yourself, because it's possible. So you can go and take this quiz after this, listen to this podcast, or put this on pause and go to happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. And the link will also be provided in the description below this episode. So you can also go there and click on that, take the quiz, and come right back and listen, because it's going to take you less than 90 seconds. And you can have that ready for you after you finish listening to this episode. So the fifth way to show support to your spouse in tough times is to show appreciation. Now, it could be as simple as, saying thank you. For example, when my wife brought me the water and I said thank you to her, and she may, even say to me, I really appreciate how much you're working to feel better, and appreciate how much you want to help us in the household, and appreciate the fact that, even though you're feeling frustrated, it just tells me that you care about us and you feel helpless, right? Things like that nature will tell me that, it helps me to realize that what I might be feeling that I'm not contributing is just my feelings is not actually true, right? It's just a thoughts I might have. And just by her reassuring me, it could be helpful. And, at that time, and also could be where the idea of me working hard to get up and to be independent and whatever else is to show me, and you can show your partner that you value them. They're very important, even in this tough stage of their lives, right? They're not, because they're going through this, mean that they're different or you value them less. No, it's you want to help them, to reassure them that they're still okay. You still see them the way you still see them. You respect them. You appreciate them. And you could be, giving them this reassurance that is necessary for their overall well-being as well. So these 5 ways is what I've put together of how you can show support to your spouse in tough times. Again, number 1, be a good listener. Number 2, be empathetic. Number 3, offer help. Number 4, be patient. And number 5, show appreciation. Now, remember, providing support is about showing your partner that you're there for them and that you care. So using these 5 methods, these 5 ways, I believe can help you do just that, no matter what tough times you're facing together. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So if you could leave a comment, a review, a rating and review on the episode on the platform you're listening to, is one way for me to know as a feedback to tell me that this was helpful and valuable. And if you see this episode posted on social media, add your voice to that. Add a comment to that. Share this with someone else so that they can also listen to this as well. Now, as I mentioned before, the announcer will come and tell you how to how to connect with us and how to also get the other resources I have available to you. But before she comes, let me invite you to check out our new website at happiermarriagesecrets.com. You'll see how to access our podcast and access our blog posts, and it's all free. And it's a resources to help you. And also let me remind you to take the Happier Marriage Assessment Quiz at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. And the link will also be in the description that follows this episode. So thanks again for listening. The announcer will tell you how to get a free gift just for staying to the end. Now let's go and make marriages happier again. Here she is.
We've come to the end of another exciting show, and if you enjoyed this podcast, 1. Make sure you give this show a rating and review. 2. Subscribe to the show to get all new releases. And 3. Get your complimentary copy of the 5 Secrets to a Happier Marriage ebook at kingsleygrant.com/HMS ebook. Again, it's kingsleygrant.com/HMS ebook. See the link in the show notes. Do it today. Don't delay. Thanks so much for listening, and make sure you tell one other spouse about this show, or better yet, share it with them. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May he turn his face toward you and give you his peace, both now and forever.